two tomato plants, same garden, same soil, same sun, same water. One is loaded with fruit, the other looks like it gave up on life. The only difference, what one of them got in August. You have probably stood in front of a plant like that second one. The leaves are curling at the edges. The stems are thin. There are a few flowers, but they drop before they set. You have watered it, you have fed it, and it looks worse than when the season started. You are wondering if the seed was bad, or the variety wrong, or if something in the soil is broken. None of those things are the problem. The problem is something that happens below the surface every August, and almost no one is talking about it. I am going to show you exactly what it is, why August specifically is the only month this matters, and what you can make from your pantry right now that can pull a struggling plant back from what looks like the end of its season. A plant that looks finished can still give you fruit. I have seen it happen in my own rows more times than I can count. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will understand not just what to do, but why it works. That is the only kind of knowledge worth keeping. Now, the August problem, and there is a real irony here. August is the month most gardeners either overreact or give up. They see a suffering plant and they do one of two things. They pour a commercial fertilizer on it, a high nitrogen formula from a bag with bright colors on it, or they decide the plant is done and stop tending it altogether. Both of those responses make the problem worse. Here is what is actually happening in August. By the time you reach midsummer, a tomato plant has been producing for weeks. It has been drawing on the same pocket of soil since you transplanted it in May or June. The soil is not just depleted of minerals, it is depleted of life. The microorganisms that live in healthy soil, the bacteria and fungi that break down organic matter and make nutrients available to the roots, those populations collapse under sustained heat. Soil temperatures above 95 degrees Fahrenheit suppress microbial activity sharply. In many American gardens in August, the top few inches of soil are well above that. The plant is not sick, not because the soil lacks nutrients in raw form. It may have plenty, but without the microbial community to unlock and process those nutrients, the roots cannot access them. That is the variable most gardeners never see. And pouring a synthetic fertilizer onto that dead microbial layer does almost nothing. The active ingredient moves through soil that is already biologically inert. It cannot be cycled into plant-available form, and in some cases, it pushes the soil pH further out of range and makes the problem harder to recover from later. The fertilizer bag does not tell you this. It tells you to apply again in 2 weeks. Walk away from that bag. If this is the kind of thing you wish someone had told you years ago, that is what this channel is. One method, once a week, tested for 30 years before I ever say it out loud. Nothing sold to you. Subscribe if you want the next one. My father, Hiroshi, grew tomatoes on a steep slope of his kitchen garden in Nagano for 40 years. He kept a wooden bucket by the well just for this, and he never bought fertilizer in his life. His plants were still setting fruit in late September, long after the neighbors had given out. I gasped and did not understand what he was doing until much later. He was feeding the soil, not the plant. That is the distinction this whole method rests on. Now, what to make, and here is where it gets specific. What you are building is a liquid soil amendment, a preparation that delivers carbon, microbial food sources, and trace mineral compounds directly into the root zone to reactivate the biological community in your soil. The ingredients are in your kitchen. The preparation takes about 15 minutes. My father practiced tsuchi-zukuri, soil making, in Japanese every time he worked his rows in Nagano. That was the idea he returned to every season. Feed the soil, and the soil feeds the plant. You will need unsulfured blackstrap molasses, 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. The molasses serves as a carbon energy source for soil bacteria. It is not feeding your plant, it is feeding the organisms that feed your plant. Do not substitute regular baking molasses or corn syrup. Unsulfured blackstrap only. The sulfur in other forms is antimicrobial and will suppress the very biology you are trying to restore. The second ingredient, is apple cider vinegar with the mother still in it. 1 teaspoon per gallon. The mother, the cloudy sediment at the bottom of an unfiltered bottle, contains acetic acid bacteria and beneficial enzymes. It slightly acidifies the liquid in a way that favors microbial reactivation in alkaline or worn soil. Shake the bottle before you measure. That is the preparation you want. The third ingredient is wood ash, if you have it. 1 teaspoon per gallon, dry stirred in and left to settle for 10 minutes before applying. Let it cool completely before using it, and keep it away from your eyes while stirring it in. Wood ash provides potassium and trace calcium in a form that breaks down quickly in the presence of moisture. Also raises pH fractionally, useful in acid soil, unnecessary in already alkaline soil. If your soil already runs alkaline, leave the wood ash out. Honestly, just skip it. Mix all of this into room temperature water, not cold water from the tap. Cold water can slow the microbial activation. Let it sit for 5 minutes. Give it one gentle stir and apply it immediately. Do not store it. Do not make a batch for next week. Make it fresh each time. The total cost is around $12 for the molasses and vinegar, and the ash is free if you have a fire pit. $12 to treat your entire tomato bed. Now, how to apply it, and here is where most people make the mistake. Apply it as a soil drench, not a foliar spray. Pour it slowly at the base of the plant, not on the leaves, not on the stem. At the root zone, use about a half gallon per plant, poured over 30 to 40 seconds so it has time to absorb rather than run off. The soil should be damp before you apply, not dry. If you are in a period of drought, water the bed the evening before and apply this in the morning. Do not apply more than once per week. The mechanism here is biological, not chemical. More is not faster. You flood the soil with this amendment, you can create anaerobic conditions that suffocate the same organisms you are trying to restore. 1 application per week, half a gallon per plant. That is the ceiling. Apply in the early morning or late evening, never in the midday heat. The liquid should have time to move into the soil before evaporation begins. This entire application, mixing, pouring, finished, takes about 12 minutes. Yuki, my wife, keeps a half-gallon jar near the back door for this. She mixes it while the kettle is heating. I have learned not to argue with her system. It takes 4 minutes. What tomato varieties are you growing this year, and have you seen this kind of mid-season decline before? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Now, what to expect? Stay with me on this section. The timeline is the part most people misread. The first thing you will see is a change in leaf color. Within 7 to 10 days of the first application, the oldest lower leaves on a recovering plant begin to look less yellow. Not dramatically, not overnight, but the gray-green color of nitrogen stress starts to ease. The leaf tissue firms up slightly. You will notice this if you are watching. By the end of the second week, new lateral shoots begin gaining color and thickness. The stems stop looking thin. A plant that was producing spindly pale growth begins to look like itself again. By the third week, you will see flower clusters forming on what were previously bare sections of stem. This is the sign that root function has recovered enough to support reproduction. Flowers mean the plant believes it has the resources to fruit. That belief is not hope. It is biology. By the 4th week, on plants that showed moderate stress, not complete collapse, you will have fruit setting again. Small, green, still weeks from ripe. But there, in plants where you were certain the season was over, I have to be honest with you about one thing. If a plant has already developed blossom end rot at scale, or if the root system is physically damaged from disease or pest pressure, this amendment will not reverse that damage. This method restores depleted soil biology and feeds a root system that still has functional tissue. It does not repair injury. What it does reliably. I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. Now, why August specifically, and not July, not September? In July, soil microbial populations are still partially intact. The heat stress has not yet compounded across enough weeks to drop them to critical lows. An application in July helps, but the need is not urgent. The plant is still coping. In September, in most American climates, the plant no longer has sufficient growing season remaining to recover and produce. The days are shortening, night temperatures are dropping, and the window for new fruit to ripen before frost closes quickly. You can apply this in September and improve your soil for next year. You will not save this year's fruit. August sits at the exact crossroads. Soil biology is at its seasonal low point, and the plant, with 4 to 6 weeks of warm nights still ahead in most regions, has just enough time to recover, flower, and set fruit that will ripen before the first frost. That is not a wide window. It is the only one. Same garden, same soil, same sun, same water. One plant loaded with fruit. One that looked finished. The only difference is something you can fix in 15 minutes with what is already in your kitchen. The soil does not fail the plant. The gardener's calendar fails the soil. August is the month you correct that. Next time, I am going to show you how to read your tomato plant's leaves to diagnose exactly what the soil is missing before the symptoms get serious.